I was only a boy, but I knew something was wrong the moment they brought in the bull's head. They said we were here for a celebration, a grand feast in Edinburgh Castle, hosted by the most powerful men in Scotland. Laughter echoed off the stone walls, wine spilled freely, and the fire crackled with life. But beneath the surface, something old and unsettling was stirring. That night, our family name would be etched into history, not in glory, but in sorrow. And we never saw it coming. My name is William Douglas, the 6th Earl of my line. I was 16 when they invited me and my 10-year-old brother David to the castle. They said it was a gesture of peace. Scotland was tired of conflict, they claimed. We were to dine as honored guests in the presence of the young king himself, James II. But even a boy could sense the difference between peace and pretense. At the time, Scotland was a fractured land. The king was barely 6 years old. Real power belonged to the Chancellor of Scotland, Sir William Crichton, and his ally, Sir Alexander Livingston. Our family, the Douglases, was the most powerful noble house in the realm, and that made us a threat. Some said we ruled in the shadows. Others whispered we aimed for the throne. I don't know what they believed, but I do know this. When powerful men are afraid, they disguise their actions with ceremony. When we arrived at the castle, we were treated like royalty. Servants took our cloaks, lords greeted us with smiles too wide to trust, and the banquet hall glimmered with gold and crimson. My brother David, so young and eager, whispered to me, "They must really like us now." I nodded, but my stomach churned. The feast began with roasted dishes, hearty stew, and endless wine. Minstrels played softly in the corner, and the king, so small in his throne, watched us with wide eyes. I wondered if he even knew what was about to happen. As the evening went on, I started to relax. Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps the old grudges had finally died. Maybe Crichton and Livingston truly wanted peace. For the first time in weeks, I felt hopeful. Then the doors creaked open. 2 guards entered, carrying a massive silver platter. All eyes turned. And there, placed on the plate, was a black bull's head. The hall fell silent. David looked at me, confused. I froze. The black bull wasn't food. It was a symbol, an ancient Highland warning. It meant that something irreversible had been set in motion. The laughter vanished. Smiles disappeared. The fire seemed colder. Before I could speak, guards stepped forward. They took me and David as if we were prisoners, not guests. We cried out, asking what was happening, but no one replied. The very men who had toasted with us minutes earlier now stood silent. Sir Crichton stood up, his face unreadable. He said only this, "For the good of the realm." We were led out of the hall, through stone corridors into the courtyard. Snow drifted from the sky. It melted when it landed on David's face. I don't know what he felt in that moment. Confusion, fear, betrayal. He was a child. He still believed in fairness. I wanted to resist, to do something, but there was nothing I could do. One of the men stepped forward. David went first. I watched my little brother fall to the ground, his crimson cloak spread out over the snow. I didn't cry. Not yet. When my turn came, I looked up at the sky, pale and endless. I remember thinking, so this is how the Douglas name is broken. But I was wrong, because it didn't end. It transformed. What happened to us shook Scotland. Some believed it was necessary. Others were horrified. But the message was clear. Not even the noblest blood was safe from fear-driven politics. They called it the Black Dinner, and it became legend. Crichton and Livingston insisted it was done to maintain stability, that our family had become too powerful. But those who whispered in back rooms said something else, that once you taste power, it's never enough. As for young James II, he never forgot that night. It was his first real lesson in ruling, that control through fear works faster than loyalty through kindness, that peace built on betrayal will always carry scars. Years later, the king would turn on Crichton as well. The same fate awaited him. Some called it karma, but justice is rarely that simple. History doesn't hand out rewards. It just moves forward. The Douglas family lived on, but we never held the same control again. My end marked the turning point, a shift from open dominance to quiet survival. Power didn't vanish, it simply hid. Centuries passed. The Black Dinner faded into books and whispers, but not entirely. In modern times, when George R.R. Martin wrote The Red Wedding in Game of Thrones, he mentioned the Black Dinner as a key inspiration. The moment when a warm welcome becomes something else, when a shared meal hides a deeper agenda. And like fiction, the true pain wasn't just in what happened. It was in the trust that was broken. There's something eternal about it. We all want to believe in basic decency, that when someone welcomes you to their table, they won't turn on you, that a child can walk into a castle and walk back out. But history doesn't reflect what we hope. It shows us what actually happened. So when you think of kings and castles, of handshakes and alliances, remember our story. Remember the bull's head. And remember that sometimes what ends everything looks like hospitality. It wasn't war that broke us. It was dinner. Some say the Black Dinner was a strategic choice, a move meant to prevent greater conflict. Maybe they were right. But to me, it was a lesson. That fear can wear friendly faces. That ambition is quiet until it strikes. And that betrayal doesn't always arrive with fury. Sometimes it arrives with a smile. Even now, it echoes. In politics, in business, even in our personal lives. That's why the story lives on. Because we all know that moment. When something warm turns cold. When celebration turns silent. When the trust is gone and the silence takes over.